key administration officials and top Democratic lawmakers discussed a path forward that would include forcing votes that Republicans would be likely to oppose. The decisions, or the discussions, I should say, included potential executive actions within the coming weeks, all centered around trying to reclaim the narrative on immigration by the Democrats. Well, Donald Trump was unleashing his anger towards Joe Biden at that closed door meeting that happened in Florida over the weekend. He was doing what Donald Trump does, spewing lots of lies, said he was frustrated and said that the Biden administration was behind the prosecutions that he's facing in courts around this country. He said Biden is a very dishonest man. He predicted World War III and pretty much everything else. His very negative view of the country, of cities around this country. The former president espoused more conspiracy theories about why he lost the election in 2020, and without evidence, even accused Democrats of cheating in elections and getting what he calls welfare to vote. That's the news of the day, and this is Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. Joining me in this hour to help me break down today's trending and breaking news are Dr. Hassan Jeffries. He's a professor of history at Ohio State University, and Fatima Gilliam. She is an attorney, DEI expert, and author of the new book, Race Rules, What Your Black Friend Won't Tell You. And in hour two, that's the hour where we go deep, where we dig behind those headlines and bring you those stories that people are talking about. Well, that new Washington Post poll that says that there's a 12-point drop in African-American voters who said they are likely to vote in the November election should, and probably does, have Democrats worried. So much so that we've seen Vice President Kamala Harris has been given the assignment to travel the country to meet with African Americans all over the country to try to galvanize Black voters and to make sure they don't sit this election out and that they definitely don't decide to vote for a third-party candidate or, worst case scenario, even Donald Trump. The vice president was in Atlanta last week meeting with entrepreneurs, talking about what the Biden-Harris administration has done for small businesses and really trying to pump up the Black vote. So in hour two, we're going to be talking to Devontae Jennings. He's the chairman of the Young Democrats of the Georgia Black Caucus to see how did the vice president's visit to Georgia land. Are Black entrepreneurs excited, motivated to vote in this election? Also, Dr. Rob Biko Baker is here. He is a former professor of African American studies at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and he's a community activist in Milwaukee, working on a number of key issues, including the issues of gun control, but he's also works a lot with the League of Young Voters. Going to talk to Dr. Baker about what young voters, particularly young Black voters in particular, are thinking about this year's election. But before I bring on any of my guests, here's what I'm thinking about in real time. The University of Mississippi is in the news. One of its college fraternities actually stood up for a Black woman who was called, I guess she was jeered. I shouldn't say she was called. There was a protest going on the campus of University of Mississippi, and someone jeered at one of the Black female protesters by appearing to make ape-like sounds and gestures. They identified this man. He's been expelled from this fraternity. The fraternity is Phi Delta Theta fraternity. This was some big kind of rowdy protest that was taking place between, pro-Palestinian protesters and then those who were counter-protesting. One of the videos shows the counter-protesters singing the Star-Spangled Banner drowned out, I should say, by chants from the pro-Palestinian protesters. Yet another video showed a large crowd of men, including two male students who appeared to be white, in American flag overalls, yelling in the direction of a Black female graduate student. In the video, the woman appears to be walking toward the crowd while recording them on her phone. The women and the two men, whose identities haven't yet been independently verified, haven't been vocal or haven't made any comments to the media. But the racial elements of the encounter led many observers online to point out Mississippi's long and sordid history of violent racism against Black people. You will recall that its senators voted to send all Black people back to Africa more than 100 years ago. And when the University of Mississippi was ordered by a federal court to admit Black students in 1962, 2,000 white people rioted against the arrival of the new student, James Meredith. Now, the initial demonstration in a fenced-off area of the Quad took place as colleges across the country have become backdrops for pro-Palestinian protests, ranging from small and peaceful to some that have turned a little violent. Clashes we watched last week between UCLA protesters and counter-protesters. In a statement from Ole Miss, the university, they said they are committed to supporting the rights of all students and faculty, and they support their students' rights to express their First Amendment rights, but to do so in a respectful and peaceful manner. And they said, although the demonstration that we witnessed, or where this Black woman had this racist experience, they said is not a reflection of what the University of Mississippi is today. And I just want to say I'm proud of this predominantly white fraternity that stood up for this Black woman. I'm proud that they identified the man that did it, that they expelled him from their organization. And I'm grateful to the University of Mississippi, despite its horrible history on race, for speaking out immediately and for taking actions to try to protect this Black student. We're going to talk in this hour about these protests, what they mean, and how Black students around the country are responding. Also talk about the cancellation of the Columbia graduation, what that will mean for students across the country, as well as many universities are looking at how to deal with the protests while recognizing the tremendous accomplishments of their students. When we come forward, more of today's in breaking news right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. First, thank you for your support of KBLA Talk 1580. We deeply appreciate you. So, I get asked all the time, Tavis, when are you going to bring back that State of the Black Union symposium you used to do? You know the one where you had all those Black intellectuals on stage every year and everybody watched all day live on C-SPAN? Yeah, I know the one.
Let's bring them back.
Well, I am pleased to tell you that if you go to KBLA1580.com right now, you can sign up to be in the audience here in Los Angeles when we go back live on C-SPAN with a stage full of Black thinkers and influencers for a historic conversation. America has never seen a stage full of Black folk talking about the urgency of now. Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. It's going down Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. at the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Admission is free, but you must register at KBLA1580.com. Once we reach capacity, you'll have to watch us on C-SPAN. But if you want to be in the room when we go live from Los Angeles, Tuesday, June 18th, head to KBLA1580.com right now to reserve your seat. Caring about the climate, caring about the community. With KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your Black.
I believe up there.
I'm going out with the girls this weekend. Nails done, outfit stunner, and my skin, I know it's going to be glowing because I glammed up my shower routine with new Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash. It smells so luxurious and moisturizes deep into my skin with its super rich, creamy lather that's bursting with vitamin B3. So my skin glows and my confidence grows. Try new Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash for glowing skin in just 14 days.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges where you just check in and chill out. Open up a world of possibilities with Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so, as a Black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
When we learn the power of hope, recovery is possible. Find out how at startwithhope.com. Brought to you by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing, Shatterproof, and the Ad Council.
The way we spend our time defines.
We are back, and in this hour, Dr. Hassan Jeffries and Fatima Gilliam are joining me as we break down today's breaking and trending news. I want to start with you, Professor Jeffries. Talk to me about what's happening on the campus of Ohio State University. We've seen protests erupt on college campuses around, this Israel-Hamas war. And some universities now canceling their commencement exercises. We first saw USC about a week ago, and then the news hit this morning that Columbia University, that has been kind of the epicenter of protests, has canceled its main commencement. Again, not its individual class commencements or school commencements, I should say, like the law school or the business school or the journalism school, but the big one where everyone comes together. And some students believe this is an effort on the part of Columbia to avoid embarrassment for the president, because there's so much discontent with her, and they are trying to tamp down on protests that may erupt during the commencement, where, of course, the president and all the leadership are on stage. What do you make of, the canceling of commencement, and then tell us what's happening at Ohio State?
Well, Reva, it's great to be with you. Ohio State 2 weeks ago had a nonviolent protest, had an encampment that the Ohio State University president essentially called the police on, riot force, snipers on the roofs, and broke it up. It was a small encampment, no more than, maybe 40, 50, at max 100 folk. It was completely unnecessary. It was peaceful. But it was part of it looks like a game plan, a play from a playbook that these university professors around the country are using. And it's unfortunate and it's unnecessary. Ohio State had its large commencement at Ohio University Stadium on Sunday, and it went off without a problem. So I do think those who suspect that Columbia's president is dodging, that the administration is dodging the potential disruption peacefully, because it's all been peaceful so far, I think they are correct. And it's unfortunate. Kids should be able to celebrate. Families should be able to celebrate. But people should also be able to express their opinions, not only on these global matters, but also on the failures of their administrations.
Yeah, and I just want to go on the record and state that I am the parent of 2 Columbia University students who are scheduled to graduate, and I was so livid. I've actually issued a statement condemning the action of this president for the very reasons you just said. There's no evidence that there's a security risk. These are universities that are used to protecting dignitaries, from presidents to vice presidents to congressional people, and they've done so without a hitch. And now all of a sudden, 46 students that took over Hamilton Hall on the campus of Columbia, a couple of hundred protests at best, and now to deprive 15,000 students of a commencement exercise. And I'm thinking about, the news right now, and Fatima, I'll bring you into this conversation. The Met Gala is happening in New York, this big, extravagant, gala with Bad Bunny and J-Lo and, all of these A-listers who are, as they should be, going about their business and going to the gala. So as big as this issue is, and I don't want to minimize what's happening in Palestine, Gaza, horrible, 35,000 people murdered, but canceling commencement for students who came into college during COVID, many of them, who worked their butts off for this day, one of the biggest days in their educational lives, or some of their entire lives, just seems like a cop-out by these university presidents.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. And it seems like this is just not the year for my alma maters. Between Harvard University and Columbia University, they've definitely had their fair share of an academic year of incessant dumpster fire. But I feel very badly for the students for some of the things that you said, Areva, right? We're talking about, at least for the people who are graduating as undergraduates, right? They didn't get to experience their high school graduation. It was virtual. It was during COVID, and many people were looking forward to it. And I remember my graduation from law school at Columbia and really enjoying being in the yard and participating and experiencing this culminating moment of your academic experience and year. So I'm very disappointed that this is the way that it's gone. I'm disappointed with many things that have been happening on various campuses across the country. I mean, for me, it's challenging, right? It's free speech being balanced with trying to maintain security. And I don't believe that every single time in all of these campuses, when the police have been brought in, that it's reached the point of needing to bring in the police. I mean, if you think about like, what is the purpose of a university in the first place, right? Higher education is founded on listening and learning and discussion and debate and free speech. And these are young people who are trying to discover, who are they, right? What are their beliefs? They need to be able to debate them. They need to be able to have conversations about them. And we tout the virtues of critical thinking and independent thinking. But then once these people start thinking independently and critically, then sometimes the grown folk don't like that and they respond in unwelcoming ways. But one thing I will say about the police is my belief is that you need to exhaust every pathway prior to bringing in the police, because at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're inviting people who are authorized to use deadly force.
And we know, Fatima, that inside Hamilton Hall, that we're now hearing reports that there was a quote unquote accidental firing of a weapon by one of the police that went in to clear that hall out. I guess I'm just stunned, Professor Jeffries, by the numbers here. You know, the protests clearly have been disruptive to some campuses. The encampments have been disruptive. But I asked my daughters, like, how many people, you know, have you seen 1,000 people out on the yards, the yard of Columbia? And they say absolutely positively not, that it is a small number of students. And these are massive universities, Ohio State University, Columbia. These are big institutions with lots of resources. So to think that they are in some ways being controlled, we know by the GOP. We know that a lot of this started with those GOP hearings, and now the president of Yale, president of UCLA, Michigan are all going to have to show up and sit before the dog and pony show that the GOP Education Committee, Virginia Fox, has decided is the way to bring these institutions to their knees. I guess I'm surprised that the universities aren't more strategic and have not thought through how to address these kinds of issues. Why are they getting caught so flat-footed? I guess is my question.
You know, Areva, it's stunning, bordering on stupid. I mean, it's not. These have been tiny fractions of a percentage of the student populations, and they're pretending as though these are whole school university takeovers, that there's some violent secret cabal. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's not like there isn't a history of student protests, nonviolent protests, actual takeovers of whole buildings. There's a playbook. You know how to do it. To say nothing of the fact that these were all coming at the end of the semester. All they had to do was talk to the kids and wait it out. It wasn't even that complicated, and it would have been over. But no. But now, I must say, there have been a few, and you saw in those universities where the presidents went out, negotiated, talked with the students, took them seriously, didn't dismiss them, didn't fall into the narrative of these were dangerous, cabals of outsiders. And what happened? Students were like, thank you very much. Let's move forward as one university. But those who have not done this, and I include Ohio State University among them, they have not shown that university spirit. What they've actually shown is cowardice and not stood up for free speech and have bowed to those forces who have wanted to silence the criticism of Israel and the war that's being executed in Gaza.
Yeah, let's give a big shout out to Brown University and Northwestern University. Those are two examples. There's some others, but they came out really early last week, and they negotiated plans with the students to address some of the issues that the student protesters had with and because of that, and because they were able to do that, they were able to move forward. When we come forward, obviously, we got to talk about Donald Trump. He is in the news today, not only because of what happened inside that Manhattan courthouse, but also because of some of the comments he made over the weekend and those who have been auditioning to be on that ticket with Donald Trump. Who is the likely winner going to be? This is like a beauty pageant, but unfortunately, these folks aren't too beautiful. But when we come forward, we'll talk about all those folks that want to be Donald Trump's running mate. You would think with all these criminal trials, people would be running away from him, but there are lots of folks running in his direction. Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.
Right time. More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. New York City Mayor Eric Adams is traveling to Italy this week. The mayor, who is Black, leaves New York City on Thursday afternoon for Rome, where he'll be attending the second edition of the World Meeting on Human Fraternity. His office says he'll conduct meetings with leaders and stakeholders and will also travel to the Vatican City. Adams flies back to New York City on Monday, May 13th. The Office of Black Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison is charging 8 people in Rice County Court for taking part in a $2.6 million Medicaid fraud scheme. Ellison's office says the 8 co-conspirators used the stolen identities of hundreds of people to build the Medicaid program for services that the victims did not receive and that the co-conspirators did not provide. The suspects are charged with 67 felonies, including racketeering, felony theft, and identity theft. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
In Willowbrook on the 105 East at Central Avenue, expected 20-minute backup from the 405 as an accident is currently on the right shoulder. Heavy traffic in Santa Monica is building up to 55 minutes on the 10 East between 20th Street and the 5-101 interchange. Meanwhile, on the 10 East in Pomona, expected 25-minute traffic jam between Highway 71 and Cherry Avenue. Back in West LA, over 40 minutes runs heavy now on the 405 North between the 10 and Nordhoff Street. Then southbound traffic between Santa Monica Boulevard and Howard Hughes Parkway is running heavy, also over 20 minutes. And drive carefully and watch for a stall in the middle lane of Echo Park's 101 North at Highway 2 Alvarado Street interchange as stop traffic is coming from 4th Street up to 15 minutes.
California Baptist University has clinched the #1 spot for career preparedness and an impressive #2 for the best student experience, according to the Wall Street Journal. Find out how CBU's award-winning experience can help you live your purpose. Visit calbaptist.edu/here.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers can scratch Jason Kidd off their list of coaching candidates to replace Darvin Ham. The Dallas Mavericks signed Kidd to a multi-year contract extension Monday morning. NBA sources claim the Lakers were interested in talking with Kidd whenever the Mavericks season ended. The Mavericks are in the Western Conference semifinals after eliminating the Clippers. They play Oklahoma City tonight in Game 1. Get ready for the Gin and Juice Bowl. Snoop Dogg is getting into the college football bowl business. Snoop and his beverage Gin and Juice are the new sponsors of the Arizona Bowl. This will be the first NCAA bowl game with an alcohol sponsor. The game will be promoted as the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl. The game is scheduled for December 28th in Tucson and will feature teams from the Mountain West and Mid-American conferences. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Pick up the drum.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
Life can throw unexpected challenges our way. Black families need support. Children require safe, loving, temporary homes. Research shows that children in foster care thrive best when they remain in their own communities. The strength and love within the Black community can provide a sense of belonging. We need your help to consider opening your hearts and homes. Contact fosterlakids.org today or call 888-811-1121. Again, 888-811-1121. Become a foster parent today.
Environmental justice is racial justice.
Environmental justice is social justice.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Single Moms Planet is a nonprofit organization dedicated to uplifting under-resourced single mom business owners and working mothers nationwide. Single Moms Planet offers comprehensive programs of financial literacy, business development, mentorship, and entrepreneurial training. They provide education, accountability, and hope. Single Moms Planet was founded by model, TV personality, and producer Nefertari Plessy. Nefertari felt firsthand the challenges that face single moms as she was raised by a working single mother. She learned that the most disadvantaged group in the United States are single mom families. According to the U.S. Census, 30% live under the poverty line. So she decided to do something about it, along with co-founder Cole Patterson. Their goal is to end the poverty cycle in single mother households through education, opportunity, and networking, providing family and child enrichment programs for under-resourced single-parent families. Single Moms Planet serves over 10,000 single moms and their children each year. Studies show that business development and financial literacy provide a positive environment for children and families, exposing them to new possibilities and opportunities. To attend one of their fun events, make a donation, or get more information, or if you need help as a single mom, please visit singlemomsplanet.org. That's singlemomsplanet.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We are back, and in this hour, we are tackling today's breaking news with Professor Hassan Jeffries from Ohio State University and Fatima Gilliam. She's an attorney, DEI expert, and author of the new book, Race Rules, What Your Black Friend Won't Tell You. Also in hour two, we're going to be talking about this new Washington Post poll that essentially says there's been a 12% drop in Black voters who have plans at this moment of voting in the November election. What does that mean for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? And also, Kamala Harris is touring the country, meeting with Black voters, meeting with Black entrepreneurs. She is what some calls the Biden administration's secret weapon in the way that we saw the South Carolina congressman was before. So I'm going to be talking to some voting rights experts about young Black voters. What are they thinking? Is Kamala Harris able to do in this election what Jim Clyburn did in the last election as it relates to motivating Black voters to get out to the polls? So make sure you stick around for hour two. All right, Fatima, you are a lawyer. Donald Trump is dominating the news cycles because of this trial. Third week of the trial. Today, lots of things happened. One, the judge found him in contempt of court, gave him another $1,000 fine. That brings him to $10,000 in fines for contempt of court because of comments he made about the jury. Now, this gag order that Trump has consistently violated allows him to make disparaging remarks about the district attorney, about the judge himself. But he cannot say anything about the witnesses, which is killing him because one of the witnesses, the key witnesses, is Michael Cohen, who is yet to testify, but whose testimony may be coming as soon as the end of this week. What do you make of the judge telling a former president that if he did not get a hold of himself, essentially, he could find himself sitting in a jail cell? And I know a lot of people would say, oh, well, that would be, Donald Trump's dream. He'll be a martyr, blah, blah, blah. He'll raise money. But Donald Trump does not want to go to jail. In fact, when he had his mugshot taken in this case, he complained about how humiliating it was and how little and small he felt. So where are we in this country that you have a judge telling a former president that if you don't cut it out, essentially, you're going to be sitting in a jail cell? I think you might be muted, Fatima. That was for you.
Oh, sorry.
Your lawyer. Tell us what you're thinking about this whole, contempt of court, what happened today in that Manhattan courthouse.
Well, what I think is, honestly, I would love it if Donald Trump were thrown in jail. Not only does he deserve it, but I think at some point we really have to ask ourselves, how much leeway do we need to give somebody because they're a former president, right? He keeps on getting accommodation that no other defendant would get in a court of law. And it would probably do him some good. At first, we thought that if you hit, tens of millions of dollars, that was the benchmark to get him to be quiet with the case against E. Jean Carroll. But then he, defamed her again. So then it's not really necessarily money that gets him to be quiet and change his behavior. I think what will make him change his behavior is being in Jen lockup with everybody else. I don't know where the Secret Service will be during that time frame. So logistically, that might mean he has to be in solitary confinement. But I think that it's time that he had to suffer the consequences of his actions, and that judges have to show that no person is above the law. We are not a monarchy, and that is why we decided to move away from England.
No, excellent point. And it's amazing to me, Professor Jeffries, Donald Trump, again, gag order doesn't control what we'll call political speech and comments that he makes on the campaign trail. So this weekend, he's in Florida and he's frustrated. And he's really, really livid about this trial to begin with. The fact that he has to sit in a courtroom every day in New York when he'd rather be either on a golf course or maybe at a campaign site or a fundraiser. So he is attacking Joe Biden all weekend, calling him a very dishonest man, predicting World War III and just about everything else. These conspiracy theories about winning the 2020 election and refusing to say if he loses the 2024 election, that he will concede and go on about his merry way. He seems to be becoming more and more unhinged. I'm just thinking if he is convicted in a couple of weeks in this Manhattan case, what might the convicted Donald Trump look like? Professor Jeffries, I think we still have him.
Oh, can you hear me? I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm still here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, absolutely. What does a convicted Donald Trump look like? He seems to be becoming more and more unhinged.
Yeah, no, I think as the reality begins to sink in, that the stakes are higher than he has even conceived of, that the potential for, facing serious jail time, not just in, because he's violating a gag order, but that if he loses this presidential election and faces the serious federal charges, that, this could be the end. I think he's, all chips in. His true feelings, his true beliefs, his true authoritarian, anti-democratic beliefs are surfacing. He really only cares about himself. But but he's willing to do anything to preserve his freedom, to preserve his potential power. And I think that's what we're hearing. And I think it's only going to become more intense and more terrible the closer we get to the election.
Yeah, no doubt. He seems to be amping up the rhetoric. I mean, I don't even know I don't know if he can turn the volume up, Fatima, any higher than it already is, but he is fuming because he does not want to be sitting in this courtroom, and he's now having to listen to his former employees talk about this scheme to create the illusion that he was paying Michael Cohen for legal services when he was actually repaying him for this payment to Stormy Daniels. And he knows that the Michael Cohen testimony is going to be explosive. He knows Stormy Daniels' testimony is going to be explosive. She's going to sit there and say that they had sex. We also know that he wants to keep a lot of this from his wife, although his wife obviously knows a lot of this. But in light of this, Fatima, you're a lawyer. There's some smart people in Congress on the Republican side. They're not all idiots, but some are. Why are these folks running? Marco Rubio, Tim Scott, Elise Stefanik, Harvard graduate, Byron Donalds. It seems like folks will be running away from Donald Trump. They're all auditioning to be his running mate, despite watching so many people in his orbit get indicted, get convicted, serve jail time. Folks like Rudy Giuliani lose all of their status as a former mayor and lawyer, lose his bar license, lose all of his money. But these folks, they want the job. Explain that to us.
I mean, it's unfortunate that these people want the job. As you alluded to them before, right? It is this Trump VP beauty pageant. Looking at the group of people, we've got the dog killer. We have two people that Harriet would have left behind. We've got the hillbilly elegy person, right, who seems like he wants to be besties with with Chris Rufo, right? So that kind of ideology. Then you have Marco Rubio, who sort of flip-flopped and now is bending the knee when before he used to criticize Donald Trump. Then we have Elise Stefanik, who we can just say is the university crusader, because she's coming for every president, first starting out with women and women of color, and now is expanding it. And then the other guy, I was like, who are you? I had to Google you. So, right. So, and it's really unfortunate. And at the end of the day, what it is, let's be honest, people chasing power, people who just want power and will do anything to keep it and maintain it and seem to not be about governing, right? They just want to have a dog and pony show and are really not truly patriotic in the way of wanting to make this a better country and a better place. Instead, they want to cling to power and will do it any way they possibly can, even countering their own values, their own beliefs, and frankly, embarrassing themselves, right? I mean, Tim Scott, when he was like, shucking and jiving a couple weeks ago, I mean, that was really embarrassing.
Yeah, Tim has really embarrassed us, even with the fake girlfriend, fiance, would-be wife that he had to produce in order to, try to advance his own presidential campaign. But Professor Jeffries, you're in Ohio. J.D. Vance, he's an interesting character. I think he's a Yale graduate. And he says he's more conservative even than Donald Trump, and that he sees himself moving the party even more to the right. He's worked his way up to this short list of potential VP candidates. What does the state of Ohio even think of J.D. Vance?
Well, sadly, the state of Ohio elected J.D. Vance. So that says something, but it also says something about the nature of the Democratic Party, the statewide Democratic Party, and not being as strong as it needed to be to push back against the likes of a J.D. Vance, who does a good job, as you mentioned, Ivy League educated, of playing dumb. And pretending as though he is, some working class fella, the hillbilly elegy, and has some great respect and deep love for sort of working class, rural Ohioans, white Ohioans. But, he's playing, first criticizing Trump before he was running for senator. He was in that group. And then, as Fatima pointed out, he's now among those who are chasing power. So that's where we stand in Ohio. And it's really sad and unfortunate.
Yes, it's so amazing. All of these folks that are so-called, have all this critique for the elites are the most elite people on the planet. So all of these Ivy League graduates, millionaires, multimillionaires who somehow want to criticize a Democrat that may have some level of education or some level of financial means, but just because they are Republicans, they are, the party or the individuals that can identify with rural Americans or low income or middle American. It's really disgusting, the hypocrisy. When we come forward, got to talk about Hamas says they're ready for a ceasefire, but Israel says not so fast. And Netanyahu says this is not over until I say it's over. Stay with us. KBLA Talk 15.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number and put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Tips to help improve your credit score in 2024. Establishing credit is an important key to achieving financial health, but building a credit history from scratch can feel challenging since you need credit to build credit. First, what does it mean to build credit? All consumers have a score between 300 and 850. You want your score to be as high as possible as lenders look at your credit score to make loan and credit decisions. A good credit score shows you have a track record of borrowing money responsibly. Remember, it's never too late to build or rebuild your credit. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment. LA's 99 neighborhood councils form the grassroots level of the Los Angeles city government. The system was created to connect LA's diverse communities to City Hall. While neighborhood council board members are volunteers, they are also public officials elected to office by the members of their community. Neighborhood councils advocate on issues like homelessness, housing, land use, emergency preparedness, public safety, parks, transportation, and sustainability. They also provide local expertise on the delivery of city services to their various communities. Neighborhood councils are open to participation by anyone who is a part of the fabric of daily life in said community. This includes those who live, work, or own property or a business. If you are interested in stepping up to join your local neighborhood council, visit www.empowerla.org. That's empowerla.org. It's time to think globally, but act locally. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
In hour two, we're going to be talking about Black voters and why has there been a 12% drop in the number of Black voters who said they are likely to vote in the November election. And what is the Biden-Harris administration doing to motivate those voters to get out to the polls? But before we talk about voters and Black voters in particular, Professor Jeffries, what do you make of this really aggressive speech made over the weekend by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, saying that he is going to not stop until he eliminates what he calls, quote unquote, his genocidal enemies, talking about Hamas. And when you juxtapose that with Hamas saying that they are ready to enter into a ceasefire, again, lots of folks complaining that the U.S. needs to do more.
Well, Netanyahu has been showing his cards for many a year. And this, the attack on Israel that happened in October has just given him the green light to do what he and many who are affiliated with him have wanted to do all along, which is to drive the Palestinians out of Gaza and out of the West Bank as well. And so to hear him doubling down on the use of what can only be described almost as carpet bombing tactics to destroy Gaza and to indiscriminately kill whoever is in his, whatever Palestinian people are in his way is not surprising. It just really reinforces the point that the Biden administration, the United States, has to act strongly and decisively to rein in and stop the Netanyahu government from doing what it continues to do. Otherwise, tens of thousands of more innocent people will be killed. Innocent Palestinians will be killed. Netanyahu is not going to stop. He is going to have to be stopped. And the only people, the only nation who can stop him is the United States.
So what does that look like, Fatima, when Professor Jeffries, who says that Netanyahu has to be stopped, and the only nation that can do it is the U.S. What does that look like?
Well, I think it's time for Biden to make some really tough decisions. At some point, people can make the argument that Israel has a right to defend itself, but the numbers on the other side are just becoming untenable. When you hit 35,000 people, when you know that there's a famine. And I'm somebody, by the way, who used to work for the United Nations World Food Program, right? And they're talking about a famine in the northern part of Gaza. We're talking about every single day, something like 10 children are orphaned. Every day, 10 children are losing one or both of their arms or legs, right? And that's not even some other kind of appendage, right? And so we've reached the point of where the suffering is so extreme that Biden has to change and pivot. And I think this is just a bigger issue, frankly, with Biden. He doesn't seem to always respond to external feedback and pivot and adapt, which is why, I'm somebody that said that I don't really plan on voting for him. And I didn't vote for him in the primary, but that's less so about what's happening in Gaza, more so about how I feel as a Black voter taken for granted. But it is time for him to listen, look at the numbers, and change his approach and strategy, because everything that he is doing is not changing the behavior of Benjamin Netanyahu. It is not changing the behavior of how they're engaging with the innocent people in Gaza that have nothing to do with Hamas.
So obviously, Professor Jeffries, really complex issue. Not going to resolve this in the next 5 minutes that we have left in this hour. But every time there's a statement made, even a statement about the number of people who died in Gaza, or a statement about a two-state solution, or anyone that pushes back on Netanyahu, there's tremendous backlash from Jewish lawmakers, from Jewish business people, from Jewish leaders, again, with this notion that Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli people have a right to defend themselves. And if that means, unfortunately, the folks in Palestine who are casualties of this war, then that's what it means, because he's defined this as his genocidal enemies. How does the Biden administration, take some action without polarizing the country even more?
Well, the polarization is going to be there. This is no longer about polarization. This is about what is right and what is wrong, what is morally right and what is morally wrong. How many more Palestinians do you want dead? I mean, that's just the bottom line. How many more tens of thousands of innocent people are you willing to suffer to allow to be dead? And is 35,000 not enough? Is 30,000 not enough? Is 20,000 not enough? I mean, at some point you have to say stop. Right? Your point is met. This is no longer about defense. This is about seizing territory, and you can frame it as defense, but this isn't about defense anymore. Right? This is about pursuing an agenda that is decades old, that is about taking Gaza and moving Palestinian people out.
So Fatima says she's not a big fan of Biden's for other reasons, and this obviously doesn't help. She didn't vote for him and maybe won't vote for him in November. I presume you're a good card-carrying Democrat and you're going to vote for the party candidate, whomever that is, even if you don't agree with all of their policies. But, what do we say to voters like Fatima, who we're going to need on this issue?
Well, I would say that, of course, and Fatima understands the nature of sort of, the two-party system, particularly at the national level, that, it really is not a choice of best options, but a choice of, look, we either can try to move somebody like Joe Biden, or we're really going to have to fight against somebody like against Donald Trump. Right. And to me, when we know that these are legitimately our two choices come November, then it's like, who do we have a better chance of moving? Right. One on the left or one on the right. I'm with Fatima on this. I'm not happy with either one, certainly for a number of policy positions, but I like my chances better with Joe Biden and the Democratic Party, knowing darn well that Donald Trump will give carte blanche to Netanyahu completely. He'll go over there himself and be like, let's go. And that is the greatest concern to me going forward on that particular issue.
No doubt about it. Go ahead, Fatima. We have about a minute left.
Interject, right? Because I'll say I explored all of these issues. I wrote an article in The Hill that said Biden must work harder to earn this Black woman's vote. And I talked about all of this, right? And I talked about this as really them presenting the best bad option. And it is because he's the best bad that he does not work hard enough to earn the vote. And he's not paying attention. He's turned off young people. He's turned off people of color. He's turned off Arab Americans in swing states like Michigan. And he's not adapting. He's not pivoting. And to me, it is his vote to lose. And he's not working hard enough. So we're talking about somebody, I've never missed an election. I volunteer for election protection in elections. I voted in this recent primary. I'm in New York. I did not vote for him. I did a protest vote. And when it comes to November, I'm very much leaning towards still not voting for him because the Electoral College means he's going to win New York anyway. In California, where Areva lives, it may not have no difference. You're in Ohio, so it's a different calculus. And so I don't plan to vote for him because I want to send a signal. And I'm sick and tired as a hardcore progressive Democrat of my vote being taken for granted. So I say he has several months. Earn it. Earn my vote.
Well, thank you for responding to that. And I disagree with you, Fatima, and you, Professor Jeffries. I think the Biden-Harris administration has done a phenomenal job. I do not agree with them on every issue, and I do think we should be doing more to prevent the senseless murders that we're seeing in Palestine. But I can't sit here and be more proud of them on so many issues, including Black women who are federal judges because of the Biden-Harris administration. $1.6 billion in student loan debt that's been relieved because of the administration. And the list kind of goes on and on. So no administration is perfect. I think Biden is working his butt off to earn the vote. I think when you do nothing like the Republicans, people expect nothing from you. When you do as much as the Biden-Harris administration, some people say you can't do enough. So to be continued, obviously, we'll actually have this conversation again. Love having both of you here. Thank you both for your time. When we come forward, we're going to talk about the Black vote and what young Black voters think the Biden-Harris administration needs to do to earn their vote. Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.